everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Kenny vs. Spenny tier lists. I decided to make this one after my last video was so successful. I want to thank everybody for that success. The video was at, I believe, about 2,500 views in less than a week, which is this content will do well as well. I also want to thank you guys for pushing me over 500 subscribers. I finally did achieve that. And somehow I'm in the YouTube Partners program now. I thought you had to have 1,000 subscribers to get into it, but for some reason, I've been invited into it. I haven't actually. Today we're going to be doing the Kenny vs. Spenny humiliation tier list. I thought about doing this in two different ways. The first way was the severity of humiliation. The second one was how much I enjoyed it. I've tried to think of different ways to do it. None of them really worked, and so I've decided that I'm going to rate this based on the severity of the humiliation, how terrible it would be to do it, and I'll make little remarks about whether or not I enjoyed them as we do it. Otherwise, end up making two different videos, which I don't think would be. I think would be a little too much. I don't think that would be quite as fun. So, without further ado, let's get into it. I think it's 89 humiliations. There's 86 episodes, 88 episodes, including the pilot and the Christmas special, and then there was a second humiliation for Octopus. Octopus has two humiliations, and we're going to rank them based on how bad they are. We are going to take special consideration into how bad it is for the individual character, and I'll give my little remarks about them as we go through. But starting off with Left at the Airport from Bibles. In this humiliation, Spenny flew to Los Angeles believing he had a script meaning to sell his Hubert Hopopotamus script. Turns out it was fake, and he's left waiting at the airport. Kenny says that this was filmed by a friend who happened to be at LA at the time, basically on a cell phone camera. That's why the quality of the footage is so terrible. I do assume that they did some kind of like post-production shots of this as well. That would be, especially given the context of this, that he was like such a douche about it, that he was so successful, that he was so sure he was selling the script, that he was done with the show, he was better than the show. This is a pretty destructive humiliation. The only thing that stops it from being S tier is that he does still have a job. He does still get to be on TV. He still does get to live his life afterwards. It's pretty rough, but especially for Spenny, that would be a pretty brutal humiliation. We have the Abraham Lincoln butt hat. This one's a little bit less severe. This is deceivingly not as severe because, yes, you do have, Kenny's ass on your head. But A, it's such a funny bit that it's a little bit less humiliating because you get to be like, oh, well, I'm a part of a funny bit here. And secondly, it's on his hair, which does look like a wig, but it apparently isn't. And so having an ass on your hair is a little bit less severe. It's conceptually humiliating, but practically speaking, if it was on your face or any other part of your body, if you had to pick a part of your body to have an ass, other than like the bottom of your foot, you might want to have it on your hair because it's not physically on you. You can just wash your hair after. Armpit over the mouth. This one's, you see, this goes back to it. Ass on the hair, I think, is less severe than armpit on the mouth. Uh, like this is more severe, but it's still. I guess we're gonna go with A. Sweaty, Kenny doesn't shower. He worked out. Sweaty armpit of like a very smelly person on your face is pretty brutal. You know what? I'm adjusting this. I I'm quickly remembering the context of the show and how severe these humiliations are. That's the scale. Uh, this one's pretty light, actually, to be honest. This one isn't really that bad. You're in the skin suit, you're in the ball, there's one piece of dog poo. The dog poo's gonna touch you at some point, but like, you're wearing a suit that's covering, 98% of your body. You're mostly gonna get dog shit on your shirt, which, is a little bit gross, but it's really not that bad. I don't think that's a particularly severe humiliation, although it is quite funny. This one's the underwear coffee. This again is a pretty weak humiliation. Uh, like conceptually, it's gross to drink, coffee made with your friend's underwear. The issue is that he allowed him to make coffee. The issue is with this one is that he allowed him to make coffee, as opposed to just boiling water and dipping in the underwear. The coffee covers it up entirely, and so it's purely psychological. You can't taste anything. It's just purely a concept, and as stinky or sweaty as those underwear may have been, it doesn't actually affect the drink. Like, it doesn't do very much to affect the taste of the drink. This one is hilarious. It's not particularly brutal. Uh, I guess it goes and see. It's conceptual humiliation. It's two guys bathing together. It's a double humiliation after weed, and they had a lot of good bits in it. It's more so awkward than anything getting filmed while taking a bath and you have your friend messing with you. That's pretty funny. The braided hair is an F. It's hardly a humiliation. It's a little bit goofy. They didn't even do the full braids. They admitted in the show that they needed something that was very quick, but it doesn't do too much. You just look kind of goofy with a yeah. There are better ones. F, yeah. In the context of the show, that's a pretty weak humiliation. It's not particularly exciting. Brushing your teeth with a toilet brush is actually another one that's very gross. Like that would be S tier. Is it S tier? He allowed him to use toothpaste. He had like globs of toothpaste on it. It had poop particles on it. I think that's an S even with toothpaste. Getting shit. Boogers. I think it's a B. It's a little bit gross to your friend's booger, but it's really just it's nothing. It's this tiny little speck. Conceptually, it's a little bit gross. It's kind of childish. See, I don't know. Some people are really grossed out by boogers. I'm personally not. Like, there's a lot of things I'd rather do. I'd rather do that than get like armpit on my face. It's about the same as like taking a naked bath with somebody or having a butt on my head. Like I guess it's worse than like drinking the coffee or being in a ball with poop. The other hand is pretty gross, especially Kenny doesn't shower. It has like an ass hair on it. It's in the crack of his like sweaty farting ass. Uh, I think that's pretty bad actually. He did get to dip it in soy sauce. B. I think. I think it's about as gross. I think it's this one's interesting. Making him eat, I think it's dog food or cat food, is actually just disgusting. That's just really fucking rough. I would rather get the armpit to the face or eat the sushi off the butt than that. That's pretty rough. Now we have licking a cat's ass with a condom on your tongue. Still pretty severe. still pretty Still pretty severe, especially since it's a crime. That makes it a little bit more severe. They couldn't actually show this one since you aren't familiar with it. This is one they couldn't show because it is a crime. It's bestiality. So they ended up putting it on the DVD extras. They still show it at the events, but they couldn't have it on TV. This one is extremely funny. I don't know how severe it is. Dressing up like a cheerleader with the wig and saying, self-demeaning things is a pretty good humiliation. I think it's a B list. It's about as bad. It's pretty severe. I'm gonna put it in D. Climbing the CN Tower is a pretty bad humiliation in context. In the sense that, like, yes, climbing to the CN Tower, he's actually able to do it pretty well. I don't know how bad of a humiliation is. I guess it's like an F. I guess you know what? I'll put it in D. Thematically, it's fun because Kenny skipped climbing the stairs, and you know how bad he is at it. But climbing the stairs in general is just like you have to exercise for an hour. It's not a great humiliation, especially in the context of the show when Spenny already did it. It's not particularly great. But, punishing your friend and be like, oh, you have to climb the stairs that I already climbed is not great. The dog biting your penis when you're in the outfit. I have to assume it still hurts pretty bad. Dogs are pretty scary, so I guess it's a B. Like, that does suck. Doggy Kenny. It looks like a beard because of how small the photo is, but it's actually the dog ears. This one is pretty bad, actually. Making him walk around and mimic pee eating from a bowl is a pretty good humiliation. Kenny does do a good job of deflecting it by making jokes. I mean, like, this is licorice. But it's still pretty good. I'd put it with B. It's along the same lines as a cheerleader. It's pretty humiliating. This is a significantly less humiliation. Licking a cat's butt is pretty rough, but like having dogs lick things out of the crack of your butt is not particularly gross. It's like it's humiliating. I feel bad for the dogs more so than anything. But like just having a dog lick your butt is not particularly terrible to me. It's it's an embarrassing situation, but it's not particularly severe. Eating puke is pretty bad. eating. He thought it was his own puke, but it's actually Kenny's. There are no real medical consequences. It's just kind of gross. I would rather eat like a little teaspoon filled with puke than eating cat food. That is pretty rough. Like I'd rather instead of brushing my teeth with a toilet brush or having my soul crushed, I'd rather eat puke. 12 eggs. I actually recreated this one to a limited extent with my brother. Fun story. I paid my brother $15. I think it was $15 to let me throw 12 eggs at him. One of them actually was a nut shot, which was very funny. I didn't hard boil any of the eggs, and most of them didn't break on him. I didn't hit him. I wasn't throwing them hard enough for them to break on him. So that's a little less severe than what Kenny did. Uh, this one's just more funny than anything. It's very funny, but I don't think it's actually that bad. It just hurts a little bit. It's not a particularly severe humiliation. I would rather have 12 eggs thrown at me than to eat vomit. uh, Withstanding breath for I think it was 10 seconds or 15 seconds, especially Kenny's breath with how disgusting it is. Like that's a pretty brutal smell, and it's not enough time for you to actually recover from it. The fart on the face. An important context for this is that this guy is not actually farting. It's not coming from his bowels. He's just absorbing air. Certain people have a birth defect where they're able to just suck in air into their butt. They know how to do that, and so it's mostly just like it's it's not a it's barely it's technically a fart. It's more of a queef than anything. It's just absorbing air and pushing it out. It's not coming from like the bowels or anything, so it's probably not as gross as you would think it is. It's still pretty gross. Conceptually, it's pretty humiliating, and in this, it would still be pretty bad. I'm gonna put it with B. It's about as bad as this. Getting humped by a goat. Again, this is one of those things that's more funny than anything. Like, as terms of humiliation, you know what? I say this, I go into this feeling very confident, and then 2 seconds after, I'm like, you know what, actually, this would suck. This would be pretty embarrassing. But, like, there's no penetration. It's a funny video. They're on a comedy show. Like, you have to subtract some of this because they are on a comedy show. They're doing this for viewers. If there was just a video posted of you doing this, it'd be significantly more humiliating than just Spenny the comedian doing this. This would be fucking terrifying. The gorilla humiliation being strapped to the front of the car. They're going very quickly. Again, you have to add points for being illegal. it would be it would be a little bit fun, but it would be pretty scary. Let's see. Ripping out the hair. Again, the problem with this humiliation is that Spenny already did something equivalent. This would hurt pretty bad. Getting your hair pulled out with pliers, especially if you have such a hairy chest. But like Kenny did this for beauty pageants as well. He had to like get his chest waxed, at least part of it, and so it wouldn't be as severe. Only like 2 or 3 pulls. I want to go with B. I'm just. This is kind of a cop out, but it's really not that good. So it's not very clear from the picture, but this is the hear ye bit, where Spenny dressed up like an old timey town crier and like rung a bell and said, hear ye, my mom's a whore," or whatever he said. Uh, Again, this is more goofy than anything. This is like funny, but it's not particularly humiliating. He's in costume. It's for a TV show. Like this is basically just doing a somewhat embarrassing gag comedy bit. Uh, this one, I actually think this one's pretty bad. It's not the biggest. It's not the biggest herpes sore, but going around trying to like talk to people with a big herpes sore is pretty rough. Like in general, just like running up to women and flirting with them on camera is kind of embarrassing. But with a giant herpes sore, especially with Spenny chasing her, that was pretty funny. Human bidet. Human bidet is a pretty rough humiliation. I think it might be an A. To like have to get ass juice all over your face from Kenny is pretty rough. I have to admit, like that's just it went back into his mouth. Like you're basically getting shit water in your mouth. This is S tier. Uh, I love you, Grandpapa, is both S tier in terms of humor and humiliation. Like Spetty having to perpetually be the guy who had sex with a male sex doll and said, "I love you, Grandpapa," especially knowing who Spetty is just so funny. Uh, this one's a pretty good humiliation actually. Like some people thought it was lame, but like knowing I wouldn't want to do that, and knowing how much Kenny hates improv and like being told to like act silly and goofy on camera, and B follow Spenny's directions is like pretty embarrassing. The camel clutch. Camel clutch is pretty fucking tough. The actual camel clutch just hurts, but then like Spenny had to be naked and chased around the arena and have like a bottle shoved up his ass. Like this is all pretty severe. I would not want to be in that situation. I think that's an S tier. That's a very memorable humiliation. Have Spenny's ass. You have to shove your face into his asshole for like 10 seconds into into Kenny's ass. And this one was especially funny of the added context of him being a little British boy, which is very funny. Uh, this one has the added context of being the one where Spenny basically said, "I'll win if I do the you can get the you do the humiliation, but I win." Is basically, I'll do the humiliation if I win, if it goes down as a. This is kind of the ultimate test of that. It's like, yeah, is it really? Is it really winning everything? Do you feel like a winner right now? Spenny singing is again just kind of a funny bit. It's not really like in the context of the show, it's not the best humiliation, but it's pretty funny. Kissing an old lady, you get a C. Um, you have to make out with the old lady. It's a little bit gross, but like Kenny said that she brushed her teeth and showed, and so it's really like her mouth tastes like toothpaste. Really, it's just kind of a little bit awkward and gross. It's not really, it's too terrible. Uh, the wedgie, the concept is, yeah, the concept is a good one, but the execution of it is pretty bad. You see Spenny barely gets a wedgie. The underwear rips very quickly, but it doesn't really go anywhere. Getting kicked in the nuts. A. This one is so simple and so straightforward, but it's very funny and it's a good bit. It's very funny and it would suck. It would suck to get hit in the nuts so severely. Kissing the horse's ass again is kind of cutesy. Like you're kissing metal, but it's just a funny concept. It's in the context of the show, it's good, but I have to give it F because it's not a particularly severe humiliation. Like Spenny kneeling, being a prisoner kneeling. It's very funny and it's a cool concept, but I don't think it's particularly severe. So, you know what? F is for humiliations that just don't work. I'm gonna put it in D. Licking the doorknob again. Like the concept is funny, but like it's really not that big of a deal. Like the idea of like the porno shop handle is so dirty. It's like most doorknobs are completely disgusting. Any bathroom doorknob would be so much worse than this. Like people touching their dick, I guess, is the idea that somebody touched their dick. One, I don't unless there's like unless there's like a sex club in this store. I don't know how many people are actually touching their dicks. Like I don't know that people are touching their dicks and assholes or something in the store. I think people are just like buying books and like silicone dildos or something. I think that a Walmart bathroom handle would be, I think, much more severe than this. This doesn't really work conceptually. Pile of manure. Pile of manure is a very good humiliation. Uh, Spenny was in his biohazard suit, so it's more conceptual than anything. He is basically being buried alive in manure, but like there's not a square inch of him that isn't covered. Like he can take off his suit and be fine. Conceptually, it's pretty gross, but I don't think it actually works as being that severe of humiliation. It's a little bit underwhelming. Yeah, I'm gonna put it there. It's still pretty gross. Mom's panties is pretty gross. That's pretty rough. I'm gonna go with A. Like putting the crotch of your mom's panties against her tongue is pretty fucking rough. I would want to do that. The monkey is pretty humiliating, but it's one of those things where like it's a bit goofy. But in the context of the show, in the context of like Spenny's life of being humiliated, that's really not the most severe, especially since it's so quick. I guess it's a C or B. I it's he's a monkey. It's humiliate a C, I guess. It doesn't really work. It's just kind of funny. Yeah, you know what? Begging for money as a monkey would be pretty humiliating. I'm gonna go with B. B is gonna be overloaded, but that makes sense. It's a pretty good show. Washing your mouth out with soap would be so nasty. I don't know if other people agree with this, but like the idea of having my mouth washed out with soap is pretty rough. I really wouldn't like that one. This is most people probably won't recognize this one. It's a pretty small and hard to see image, but this is going into the movie theaters line and telling people the ending of the movie. People are waiting outside. This feels very old. This feels very outdated compared to the rest of the show. Going into like an outdoor movie line and saying the ending to, I think it was Unbreakable. I think I want to say Unbreakable, but people would be upset, but nobody could really do anything to you, and I don't think people would care, especially in today's day. I don't think anybody would give a shit. Um, I think they're a dick, but like the internet spoils everything, so I don't know. Maybe it's just a time frame. Maybe if I went back in time, I would be really upset by that or something. What the fuck? What humiliation? This is a real test of your Kenny versus Spenny knowledge. Is can you look at one frame and know exactly what's happening in this image? Can you look at one frame and say this is oh yes, this is this episode's humiliation? Uh, Jesus Christ. Okay. No wonder this is so forgettable. This is from the humiliation from Cooler. This is when Spenny was put naked inside of a freezer, which is pretty fucking brutal. In the show, we only see him naked there for like a minute, but given the context of filming, it had to be at least 5 minutes. That would really fucking suck. That would be like actual torture. It would be you're gonna freeze to death. It's pretty bad. I'm gonna put an A on the assumption that it's a TV show, and so he's only in there for a couple minutes. The naked block. Kenny has to run up and down the street naked. Kenny is pretty okay with nudity, and it's in Toronto, so it's really not that severe. I would put B. A. You know what? Running naked would be pretty fucking rough. I'm gonna go with A. Cleaning the window, I think, is actually less severe than running naked. You're up in a window, people see you for a few minutes, but like your butt's covered, you're wearing the belt, your dick's not showing. It's mostly just conceptually that you're naked. I think it's less severe. You might argue like, oh, but you're up high, you're more visible. It's like, yeah, that's true, but you're not facing them, you're sitting down. Like, if I was naked at a desk, I feel like that would be less humiliating than if I was naked. Like, imagine you're at school, you have to be naked at a desk than if you're naked at the front of the class. You know what I mean? F tier. This is the van humiliation. Arguably, this shouldn't be here, but the no humiliation because it's a draw is very stupid. That was something they shouldn't have had to begin with. Bees on the dick. Again, a humiliation. This is a jackass stunt, actually, from the most recent movie. But having your dick covered in bees, you're never going to get a bee stung. It just doesn't work. Another one of these Yeah, F. This humiliation just doesn't work. It's a little bit goofy, but with a hat, maybe. It's not particularly severe. He's just like doing old lady exercises in the pool. You'd feel a little awkward and out of place, but considering everything they do in the show, this doesn't really work. Kendra on the street, again, also doesn't work. Like, they were just on television doing this. And so, standing on the street corner as Kendra is not particularly terrible. You know what? Put it as C. Like, it's in public. I get that. There's people coming up to you thinking you're a prostitute. Like, that would suck, I guess. This, I think, actually is the worst humiliation. I think this has to be the worst humiliation. Kenny with the bird poop seems to me to be the most severe. This one is just so fucking... Like, licking... One, it's actually dangerous, but two, like, licking a fucking bird shit would just be so gross. Bathing an old man, again, is just more goofy than anything. Like, people do this every day. It's a job. People take care of their family. Like, people do this for a living. Nurses and nurses' aides fucking give old people baths. Elderly care facilities do this. It's basically just doing volunteer work. It is funny, though. Maybe it's a D. Maybe it's a little bit embarrassing, but you're, like, helping an old guy. Pissing on the bed is a good humiliation. It's pretty good. I think that's an illegal humiliation. Is it C? You go, your bed's peed on, he's not in it, he'll clean the bed. It's more so, like, an interesting... Now, getting peed on while you're passed out and dressed as a clown. I wouldn't want to get peed on. B... He's fully clothed. There's like pee on your clothing is upsetting. I don't think it's as severe as like fucking bee bees on you or getting hit in the nuts. If you're like, hey, listen, you can either be fully clothed, wrapped in like multiplayers, and somebody pees on your stomach. If it's on my face or something, I could see that being bad. But it's like it's on my stomach. It's like it's conceptually gross, but it's really not that terrible. Playing with your dick in front of your mom. This is both very funny and pretty. I wouldn't want to play with my dick in front of my mom. I wouldn't want to whip my dick out in front of my mom and share my dick. Like as crazy as Kenny is, that's still pretty fucking rough. Face of the pig's ass. It's a cured pig. I think it's like it's not a living pig. It's been cleaned. It's been everything. It's more so the concept of putting your nose in the pig's ass. It looked like it was. I don't know if it necessarily cooked literally, but like it's putting your face in like raw pork essentially. There's no bacteria or anything, but it's still pretty bad. Like I think conceptually, like beyond the conceptual, you're basically just putting your face into like raw pork, into like a raw pork for a second. For not for a second, like 30 seconds. I mean, I'd rather do that than whip my dick out for my mom or get stung by bees and shit. This one's a unique thing because that looks fucking awesome to go and do stunt flying. Like that sounds amazing. For Spenny because he's afraid, that's actually pretty severe. I guess it depends on who you're rating it for. Like for a person who's afraid of heights, like that would be fucking petrifying. So I'm gonna put. I guess it has to be an S tier because of how upset Spenny was. Like he looks terrified, and you can't fake that. This is my personal favorite humiliation. It's not severe, but it's the one from basketball. It's my favorite humiliation where Kenny does fake poo on Spenny's face. Spenny the whole time is like, "This is easy. This is a chill day," because it's basically brownie mix. You're getting brownie mix poured on your face, which would be pretty delicious. Um, for the sake of the tier list, like a funny video, it's really in terms of the actual humiliation for you, it's not particularly severe, but I do just want to put a little asterisk and say this is my favorite humiliation. I love it so much. I completely get what Kenny was going for here. It's very funny. Also S tier. Boxer, technically not a humiliation, but Kenny goes, he opens the door, Spenny throws like the piss and shit bucket onto him, and that would fucking suck because you have to be in there for like 30 seconds. He has all the fucking gear on him, and your face and chest and body are just fucking coated in piss and shit, and that's just fucking brutal. Poop corn. Poop corn again is a conceptual humiliation. I think a lot of people would be really grossed out by that, but like the poop going, it goes through your system. You're probably not in any kind of danger of any bacteria. You probably don't taste it if there's like butter and salt and stuff on it. But I think you have to give it an S just because like somebody convinced you to eat essentially their poo. Pork's nose. They really hyped this up in the show, and I think Kenny genuinely. I think to an extent Kenny was actually grossed out by it, but I think they hyped it up in the show. Just eating a pig's nose is a little gross, but it's also just like you eat pork every day. It's like chicken feet, I guess, where like the idea of eating chicken feet is so like a lot of people would be grossed out by it, but like there's cultures that eat fucking chicken feet every day, and there's zero stigma to it. I personally wouldn't be particularly bothered by this, especially with like the idea. Kenny doesn't keep kosher, so maybe he's like, oh, he's drinking milk and eating pork, blah blah blah. Like he doesn't give a shit. And it's like there's no snot, there's nothing in the nose. Like it's a fucking cooked, properly, it's properly cooked fucking pig's head. It's not particularly bad. So I'm gonna give it a D. I don't think this is a great humiliation. The pube joint is again, I think one of these things that's deceptively not that bad. You're breathing in burnt hair, which is gross, but the idea that it's like, oh, it's pubes, man, that's like so severe. It's very funny, it's very cool, it's a fun idea, but I don't think it's actually that significantly bad. Here is the pubiscuit. This is worse. Eating pubic hair from Bobby would be pretty fucking rough. Fun fact, by the way, Bobby won $250,000 in the lottery once, which was kind of cool. Yeah, pubiscuit's worse, I think, than a lot of these. Even the butt sushi. You know what? Maybe butt sushi's bad. Maybe butt sushi's A. Because that is like it's his crack. It's on his crack. It's not like tucked in to it. Like it's the outer limits. There's bits of fecal matter for sure. Public toilets, again, is a weird one. I don't know how humiliated I would be, but like Kenny's really fucking hating it. And you know what? Your dick and stuff is out. Like it's basically just the back half of your ass, and nobody's paying attention. Nobody cares. It's still pretty bad. I would say A. If Naked Mile is here, I think this is also there. This one again is just a failed humiliation. I'm gonna put a D. It's because it's conceptually bad. Like somebody's like, oh, people are posting humiliating photos of you. It's like, oh, but like people, your name and your face are on a billboard. It's still a little bit cool, even if they're saying something negative about you. Even if it's like ugly photo of you that says you're a loser. It's like, okay, so what? I'm fucking on a giant TV. I'm fucking famous. Especially when you have a TV show. This doesn't work in the context of the TV show. Like if this happened to you and you're just a regular working person, that could be upsetting. Or if you're like a public figure, but like this photo of you of like you're on a comedy TV show, it doesn't really work. Spenny gagging on the cucumber, again, it's there is like that homophobic tint to it where it's like, oh, it's embarrassing to mimic sucking a dick. But like Spenny also just blew a dummy for fucking half an hour one time, unprompted. So I don't know how bad this is, especially with it like it's more embarrassing and goofy. It's like frat humor. I guess it's a B, especially with all the fucking weird gay shit they do. I don't know that this is necessarily that severe. I'm gonna put it in a B. Puke, puke bath is very severe. Getting puked on by all your friends is just very funny. He took it like a champ though. You got to give him credit. Like I don't know how the fuck he did that. That was brutal. Rat in the pants. Having a rat in your pants is pretty fucking gross. It's like clawing at your nuts. It's clawing at your dick. Like it's moving around. You can't move or else you could hurt it, and so you have to just deal with it. Tongue scrape. Probably I think the second worst humiliation next to bird poop. Next to bird poop, I think it's the worst. The 2-day old stuff from your mouth into your friend's mouth is pretty fucking rough. Sex store, again, you're in a sex store window, so it's not as severe. Kenny really seemed to hate it. There's actually a fun fact: if you watch this, you can see the corner of Kenny's nuts in this shot, which is interesting. It's an embarrassing outfit. It's embarrassing to be on camera. It's embarrassing to do this in public, but it's not particularly severe. It's not as severe as a lot of these, especially since it's like in a store window. Come to the face. Oops, not necessarily there. The fact that it's especially homeless man come and that Spenny didn't agree to do it, I think, is what makes it pretty severe. I guess it has to be S. Just like because it's strangers, homeless seaman come, and he's not consenting to it, makes it pretty fucking bad. Like that's one of the worst humiliations. Skunk. This is a skunk. Skunk blast of fate. I don't find skunks that gross, but at that fucking close range, that's gonna be pretty fucking brutal, and it's gonna stay with you for days. Mom spanking you, I think, is a funny bit. I actually think it's one of the higher lists. It's embarrassing to like pull down your pants and have your mom spank you on TV is pretty funny. Uh, this one is a bit goofy. It's less than the naked run. It's less than the naked run. This is when Spenny had to walk up and down the block in the bra and panties. It's more so just kind of goofy than anything. B. Spit to the face. Fucking A, dude. That's a rough one. Getting just a glob of loogie on your forehead is pretty rough. The Spenny is a winner song is not too terrible. You can see how miserable Kenny is the whole time. But singing a song about what a loser you are is pretty good. I think it's about the same as this one. I think it's about the same as Cheerleader. You have to be my pretending guest. No. This one, again, I don't think it's too severe. It's a C. It's pretty solid. It's very funny, and you get to see Spenny be pissed, but, like, it's really not that terrible. Like, you just have to be in the bathroom while your friend shits and, like, hand him toilet paper and have him call you Gaston. Like, it's not the most severe humiliation. Stockades is a great humiliation. Kenny had some fun with it, but people like fucking shoving tomatoes in your face and you're fucking strapped in this super uncomfortable position is very rough. Sucking Bobby's nipple. Uh, I think this is an A humiliation. Like, you know what? That's pretty rough. I'm having a tough one with this one. I think it's maybe an S. It's stockades, a face in the ass, cat food, vomit. God, it's so bad. Like, the thing is, it's like you have to like tell yourself like, oh, it's just skin. You're just licking and sucking skin. Whoops. You're just sucking on skin. It's like, yeah, but it's like fucking, it's Bobby, man, and he's like super fat, and you're having to like nurse on his nipples. This one I don't think is that bad. It's just nuts on your forehead. Again, as a bi guy, I don't know how upset I am about this one. Like, it's more goofy than anything. It's just like, I don't know that I don't know if my masculinity is compromised by this. I'm like, oh, I've been so humiliated. It's like, it's goofy. It's for a TV show. Like, I don't know. I'm not particularly upset by this one. I'm gonna put it in B. It's funny for them though to see how upset they are by it. I guess it's a B. Yeah. This one you can barely see, but it's Spenny as a baby in the crib on the street. Again, this is the context of a comedy show. It's really not that crazy. Biting the toenail is, again, I think a pretty good one. Kenny's disgusting feet. You're trying to like bite a toenail. I have to give it an A. Bobbing for apples in the toilet is also a good one, especially since he couldn't get it. He has to like basically dunk his face in the toilet a bunch with his mouth open, so he has to get some toilet water. The toilet looks pretty fucking clean in this photo though, so it's mostly conceptual. I don't know how clean you can get that toilet, but it looks about as clean as you can get it. Still pretty fucking severe. Like, still pretty severe. A, putting your face in the toilet. Yeah, this is another one of those that just doesn't work. D-list, I guess. D-list, you're putting your hand in shit. And, like, I worked as a janitor for a long time, so I'm a little bit immune to this, where I'm like, oh, no, there's poop on my hand? Oh, how humiliating. It's like, that shit happens. Like, shit happens, Like, it's not that, like, gross to me. It's a little bit gross, it's a little bit fucked up, but it's really not that severe of humiliation, considering the other shit they're doing. The going around talking to people, I think is pretty bad. I personally would have a lot of anxiety about this, just going up to people. I guess B. Maybe C. It's really not that severe. Tara, this is going to be a controversial one. The humiliation of this episode is that Spenny slept with a trans woman. This has to be taken in the context of, I think, 2010 when this would have been shot. Obviously, at that time period, it was very, a lot of people would have seen it as gay to kiss a trans woman, or have had sex with a trans woman. And I do appreciate what Kenny did here, where he kissed her on the cheek just to be like respectful of her, which I appreciate. It's like, that's a lot for 2010. Spenny realizing he had slept to this day. Emotionally, this has really damaged Spenny, because he to this day will not acknowledge that he like slept with Tara. He's like still upset about it. It still makes him uncomfortable. He still won't talk about it. And so, in the context of the show, I think it's pretty severe humiliation. Nowadays, for most progressive people or whatever, it wouldn't be that bad. And frankly, I don't think like anybody should be that upset about it. But this is a tough one to rate. I'm gonna kind of keep this neutral, because in the context of the show, it's a very good humiliation. But in practicality, it's not particularly severe. Like, I wouldn't be upset about this. Let's put it in D, I guess. Yeah, since it's ranking it on my subjective, how bad I would find it, I'm going to put an F, actually. Because, like, I don't think it's that great of humiliation, but in the show, it works really well. The torture from a dominatrix, this is, Spenny said this is the worst humiliation he's done. And, I have to kind of agree with him. It is a little bit funny, because it's a TV show. Yeah, it's really not that bad, actually. Last but not least, making out with your best friend. Pretty great humiliation. Great double humiliation, especially. I don't know how severe it is, but that's I'm going to put it an A. All right. That's it for this video. Thank you everybody for watching. If you stayed to the end, I greatly appreciate it. Please comment, like, and subscribe. Let me know if you want me to talk about anything else, or if you disagree with me or agree with me. Other than that, this is Just Add Nuance signing out. Thank you. Bye-bye.